Julian Assange to plead guilty in exchange for release from prison. Okay? All right, here we go.
Here we go.
Julian Assange will plead guilty to one felony charge under the Espionage Act, in a plea deal that will end his years-long legal saga and will allow him to go free. Assange will plead guilty to conspiring to unlawfully obtain and disseminate national defense information, with the plea and sentencing scheduled for Wednesday in federal court in the Mariana Islands. Assange has spent the last 5 years in a British prison fighting extradition to the U.S. as part of the plea deal. His 5-year sentence will be considered time served, ensuring he will not serve additional prison time after the court proceedings. He is expected to return to Australia. Assange was indicted on 18 charges, including 7 espionage charges for publishing classified military intelligence documents. In 2010, he was accused of helping Chelsea Manning steal and leak diplomatic cable and military files, sparking a national debate over whether his actions were heroic or harmful to the U.S. national security. Tom.
Well, I think there's been a moderation. Speaking of moderation of alcohol, there's been a moderation of anger by governments toward Julian Assange, because the only way this happens is the U.S. government sits back and says, look, he's been in British prison for 5 years abroad. I don't think he's going to get out and do anything, because he knows that we will just come after him. He wants to go to Australia. He wants to go home. Tell you what, we've got the beef. Let's bring him into court. Let's make sure he pleads guilty so we can parade it around as guilty. We have our precedent, because remember, what they want here is, one, to manage Julian Assange, but the second thing they want is a precedent for anybody else.
Scare the hell out of everybody else.
Scare the hell out of everybody else to say what it was, because now they can say he served 5 years and then we moderated it and let him go home to Australia. Now they can say anybody that unlawfully obtains and disseminates national defense information, which is pretty broad. That could be like a diagram for a helicopter part. Oh, that's national defense. That's our tool of war. That's us. So I think what's happened here is they want a precedent. He's going to say, all right, I've had enough, but he'll be given time served, and now he can go home to Australia. But it's, he's basically been checkmated and sitting around in prison for 5 years, plus the 9 months before where he was on detention before the British put it into play as a sentence.
Here's an RFK tweet. Julian Assange struck a plea deal and will go free. I'm overjoyed. He's a generational hero. The bad news is that he had to plead guilty to conspiracy to obtain, to disclose national defense info, which means the U.S. security state succeeded in criminalizing journalism and extending their jurisdiction globally to non-citizens. Julian,
that's the precedent,
had to take this. He has heart problems and he would have died in prison. But the security state has imposed a horrifying precedent and dealt a big blow to freedom of the press. Good point. And by the way, this is a story from New York Post. I got Rob here as well if you want to pull it up. Julian Assange drops $500,000 for flight to remote island to avoid setting foot on U.S. mainland. $500,000 private jet. The cost of the jet was...
Someone paid for that.
Yeah, of course someone paid for that. UK prison and flew from London Stansted Airport to U.S. territory of Saipan in the northern Mariana Islands, a $500,000 flight, according to reports. He will have a U.S. federal court hearing Wednesday. But there you go. So he had to go through that. Adam, your thoughts on this?
Yeah, well, there's a couple characters in this situation. Obviously, the primary character is this guy, Julian Assange, the founder of WikiLeaks. This was something that happened in the first term under Obama in 2009, 2010. This is when the ongoing wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were on, and the allegations was that he published the largest amount of classified information in American history. I think it was 500,000 classified docs specifically about the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Specifically, there was one that showed shocking footage of this one specific airstrike in Baghdad.
Collateral murder, when they were shooting, and they shot the Reuters guys, the two reporters.
Is that what it was? So,
yeah.
He's obviously the main character here, and everything that's happening with him being seeking asylum. I think it was in a Swedish it was in Sweden, and then it was it Ecuador that had him?
He was going to an embassy.
Exactly. The Ecuadorian embassy. But the second person that's involved in here is this person, Chelsea Manning, who was she was a former intelligence officer and whistleblower. So we know the whole conversation with whistleblowers, and even Julian Assange. They said it before: is he a heroic or is it harmful? Are you a journalist or a criminal? Are you a whistleblower? Or are you committing espionage against the country? Are you a hero or villain? There's a lot of complicated situations here. But Chelsea Manning is now a trans woman, born a man, now a woman. She's the one that basically leaked the information to WikiLeaks,
that video
to Assange. She was sentenced to 35 years of a maximum security prison. This is in 2010. Then Obama stepped in and commuted her sentence for 7 years. She was charged with aiding the enemy. So the whole conversation is that this happened in a time of war. She gets out. She runs for Senate in Maryland as a Democrat. She gets
so this guy's a guy.
This is a born a man, now a woman.
Released that video.
Released the
What do you
video.
mean he's now a woman?
Exactly.
Like,
By the way,
That's a girl now.
yeah, she was born Bradley Edward Manning. Now it's Chelsea Manning. She went through the transition during this time, right in 2010. So it's a complicated situation.
Yeah, that's him. That's dead.
Him.
That's dead picturing, Rob.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Rob,
I can't believe you dead
let's
pictured
not do
him.
that, Rob. Let's have a little respect for Chelsea. But you know the conversation. I mean, she won a bunch of awards for what she's doing. There's going to be a school of thought that's saying these are bad people committing espionage. These are good people doing whistleblowers. But she ran for Senate, got blown out in Maryland. But you got to give her a little respect right here. So in 2019, she was then jailed again and had to pay a $250,000 fine. Why? Because she was charged with being contempt of court for refusing to testify against Julian Assange. So respect to her for being aligned with Julian Assange right there. The third character here, people don't know this, but Julian Assange, his lawyer, was a lady called Stella. She was representing him. He then married her, had 2 kids with her. Interesting conversation that's going on right there. I mean, politicians galore were basically stumping and campaigning for his freedom. And look at him now, and look at him go. We'll see what he does next.
Listen, I'm a fan because I've been following Julian Assange from the jump, and let's just strip it down to what was he actually trying to do with WikiLeaks? Okay, he had a platform where people that were inside, or just people in general, could expose corruption, the lying, the deceitfulness, and what did they do? Once he started, the height started coming up at him. Because by the way, he exposed the Iraq war logs, Afghani war diaries, the U.S. State Department cables, Cablegate in 2010. All the Guantanamo Bay files, everything that Hillary Clinton and who was that disgusting John Podesta, every single thing that came out on these people, he was just exposing them to the world. And then what happens? You have people like Mike Pompeo basically putting a hit list on this guy, and then Hillary Clinton in 2010, she denies this, but a bunch of people said in 2010 State Department meeting was mentioned in several news reports that she said, "Can't we just drone this guy?" That's because when you expose the truth, all that deep state, all that people have to go after you. Same thing with Trump when he exposed everything. Look what happened to him. If I was him, I'd be hiding. I'd be careful because of people like Hillary Clinton, because he exposed the truth. And Adam, no matter what people want to say, were people's lives in danger? He even said there was actually nobody that died on our side because of the information that he put up, but he exposed the truth.
So here's a question.
Yeah.
Tom, okay, so he's guilty. Right? He's going to come in and plead as he's guilty to be able to take care of his health because he needs to do surgery, see the right doctors, et cetera, et cetera. No problem. Does that mean the next whistleblower is going to be afraid of coming out and doing anything? What's the next whistleblower going to do? The next whistleblower is also going to go live somewhere else and not come to U.S. territory. How is the next whistleblower not protected?
Well, basically, my question would be, when it comes to the Department of Defense or State Department, is it now legal to even be a whistleblower? Or have they kind of drawn a line around it and said, hey, if you're working for us, this is secret, this is where it's going. And so the only path is, how do you get Congress to take up a topic and then have hearings and investigation. And that's got to be done privately. But if you go public and you go if it's whistleblowing, hey, I saw something, I've seen it, and you make stuff public, you're dead. But if you say, hey, I'm whistleblowing and I'm cooperating with a congressional committee and speaking to the select committee in closed hearings, that's the only way to do it. They've just made whistleblowing, nearly illegal and more difficult 10x.
Mm-hmm. Well, we've had some whistleblowers on the show before. There was the January 6th guys. I think we talked about there.
The
there
FBI
were
agents.
Everything was Boeing. We talked about the Whistleblower Protection Act of 1989 that protects whistleblowers from potential attacks that you're talking about right there. So there's going to be a precedent here. The one thing I'll tell you is that he's not an American citizen. So I don't know how that registers in all this. But the whole premise of that Whistleblower Protection Act was to prevent retaliation against whistleblowers who are essentially calling out wrongdoings, right? So we'll see what happens.
He's a whistleblower holding up a document stamped secret. That's different
that's
from
the
just
problem.
being
That's where
a
you get
whistleblower.
into espionage, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to... do you notice a pattern with Snowden or, Julian Assange with certain personality and wiring that they have? You really think a true whistleblower is not going to come out and blow the whistle on something that's going on because they're worried about whether they're going to be protected or not? No. You really think a lot not going to come out?
They want to come. They want to expose the truth.
They have a cause.
Yeah.
They're
Listen,
true believers.
True believers are not looking for money to become famous and rich, man. I mean, true believers are not, we're not doing valuetainment because we need to make more, hey, let's go make some more money doing valuetainment. We've been set with what we're doing. We're doing because a book was written called Choose Your Enemies Wisely, because an enemy pissed off a guy who loves America, who wants to see America stay great, and we are finding each other and we're fighting. We can sit here. The only reason money needs to be made in the concept of capitalism is for you to be able to fund some of the stuff that you're doing, right? But for a whistleblower that's like, man, if the world only knew how dirty these people are, you would never look at them the same way. And when you have access to that information and every day you're checking email and you're like, dude, that guy's you really watch this stuff? Like, imagine you're working for a boss, okay? And you're his executive assistant. And he asks you to follow up on emails. You go on the email and you go to the history. And his history clear for 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And you see child porn.
Jail.
But hear me out for a second. You see child porn over and over and over and over and over again. You walk in on him. This guy's not a friend of yours. He's just your boss, somebody you're working for. What are you going to do?
If it's my boss?
I mean, honestly, what are you going to do?
Honest to God, I would report him 1,000. Like, I wouldn't. I would care less. I don't care what position my job is in. In my heart of hearts, I would 100% report him to the authorities.
See that
100%.
But here, okay. So then go and see what if your best friend that you have, what if this guy is got brings 15, 16-year-old girls to his office continuously. And you're like, bro, what are you doing? And you've caught him 4, 5, 6 times over the last 3 years. What are you going to do?
One time is too much. What the hell?
But what are you going to do, though?
If it's a friend, and I personally wouldn't let something like that get to 4 or 5. The first time, if I found out a friend, and I'm being dead serious, if I'm telling the truth or not, I would beat the living shit out of him. If I caught a friend with a 15-year-old, I'm beating his ass and I'm calling the cops.
Okay.
Done deal.
So check this out. Now, let me ask you. You're saying this, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and watch what's happening to you, right? This is why the shirt Angry Patriot is the Angry Patriot, right? So watch what happened to your emotions right now. So now, let's actually flip it. How many people you think in America right now have a job that they're seeing dark? I'm talking dark stuff being done. How many people do you think right now work for the U.S. government? They work for the CIA. They work for the FBI. And they see certain decisions being made, and they're like, "Oh man, that is You know, that is an illegal immigrant raped a 13-year-old. Do not use the word illegal immigrant on this media platform. We call them undocumented. You cannot call them illegal. This guy rapes, and you're worried about the terminology? Is this it, Rob?
Yes.
Can you play this clip, Rob?
Bothers me so
Can you play this clip?
Immigrants were 37.1% less likely to be convicted of a crime. Undocumented immigrants, and according to a survey, University of California Riverside study, 33% less likely to be in prison as of 2021.
Young lady killed in
I'm just
Georgia.
giving the numbers.
Well, what do you tell the parents of those people, those young girls who were killed? This is absurdity. The preponderance of these people, Michael, are male.
But what is the difference between an illegal immigrant who unfortunately engages in that activity?
And we don't like that. I want to be clear. We don't use the term illegal. So undocumented individuals.
That's sweet. They're illegal aliens.
Undocumented individuals versus anyone else.
You can pause it right there.
Did you see her face?
You know who those people are, right? Well, number one, that is Michael Steele, the former chairman of the RNC. So, I mean, he's, establishment Republican. And that is Simone Sanders Townsend. She is the Bernie Sanders campaign chair surrogate. So you got to understand who you're basically talking to here.
But the point is with whistleblower, if a whistleblower is working at the FBI and they're aware of what's going on, every night they go to sleep, they sit there saying, we're destroying this country. For what? For $100,000 a year? $150,000 a year as an FBI agent? Every single time you see certain information with a fake dossier to destroy someone's political career and life, and his name is Donald Trump, you don't think people on the inside sit there and they're like, this is just not. There's a very big difference. Like, you got kids, okay? What do parents teach their kids about snitching? What do you say snitching on your kids?
Snitches get stitches.
But how do you as a parent teach snitching to your kid?
Like tattletaling on your
Tom, how do you teach snitching to your daughter? Like, you got two girls. One of them comes up to you. Don't snitch on your sister. How do you teach snitching to your kids?
Well, there's two sides to it. The first side is if somebody's doing something that is harmful or wrong, then it needs to be brought forward. But if you act politically, and we talk about this, what is politics? Well, politics is a game of gotcha. And you're bringing up little tiny things at the right moment to get someone in trouble and to sway things, then what you're really trying to do is to sway my opinion or to create problems for the person. You're not caring about your sister in such a way to say, hey, I got to bring this up because this is not good. This is not good for her. This is not good to do. There is a big difference between, hey, I need to bring this up because this isn't good, versus you're bringing little things up at the right time and the right way to get somebody poked.
Yeah. So, I mean, how are you going to teach your kids about snitching? Let's just say you got 3 kids, Vinny. One of them is doing cocaine. Do you want the other 2 know? Do you want them to tell you about it?
100%. If one of the kids is doing cocaine, I want to know, but I want them to understand like that we have a relationship where I'm going to be like, I'm not going to go outright and be like, hey, I heard from. No, I'm gonna figure out a way to catch them or figure out a way that they're doing cocaine. I'm not going to be like, because then there goes that relationship between the brother and the sister. If you tell them, like I remember as a kid, if we ratted on each other, it was fighting for a month. We'd beat the hell out of each other because the other person told, that's where he was. This is what he was doing. That's a delicate situation.
But in this situation, it's a similar story. It's whistleblowing. Mm-hmm. It's a form of whistleblowing. Mm-hmm. So there's levels to whistleblowing. There's levels to what you should say. So to me, I think they can do all they want to make an example of Julian Assange, a true whistleblower who, thinks long-term and sits there and says, you know what? There's no way I'm going to let this happen. They're destroying a great nation. I'm going to come out and talk about it. I think a true whistleblower is not going to hold back.
And the thing that I think we should just keep in mind, though, what are some synonyms for being a whistleblower, right? Like, what does it actually mean? Exposing the truth, disseminating what is actually right, disclosing information that is 100% needed to be disclosed.
Shining light.
Revealing, exactly. So, the term whistleblowing is a good term in theory. It's a complicated one.
Yeah, and if you think about it, you nailed it. The dossier, and how many FBI agents, out of all those FBI agents, none of them said anything? What were the 2 that we had in here? What did they expose? The border? Out of all the FBI, out of all of Homeland Security, out of all these people, we're getting 1 maybe 2, maybe 3. If I was seeing that, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that, like, if I work for the Department of Homeland Security, the border is wide open, and women, I don't care what people say, oh, they're isolated incidents. No. Women young girls are getting raped and murdered in this country. The other day, there was 2 of them that lured this 12-year-old under the bridge, raped her, and then killed her. They were just in court yesterday. You're not going to open your mouth to be like, guys, I've worked there. This is what's happening. We have to expose the truth. You have to do it, or else how do you sleep at night?
That's what I think. I think it's not an easy thing on where to be. Comes with the job. But I think the true whistleblower who is seeing some of this stuff is not going to let it go. They're going to say stuff. Anyways, gang, this is why I love America. I'm America first. My team, my jersey is America. That's what I wear. Yesterday when I went to the game, Florida Panthers against the Edmonton Oilers, you know what hat I was wearing? I was wearing a Valuetainment hat. You know how many Valuetainers I saw yesterday? I couldn't even tell you. Left and right, we were having conversations with everybody because I'm convinced future looks bright. And 4th of July is around the corner. We told you guys we had a complete new merch drop, but I'm going to show, if you're looking at the, Rob, can you actually go to the store so I can tell them what's sold out and what's few items are still left or not? If you just go to vtmerch.com and go to the 4th of July right there, if you can click on that. Okay, so let's go through it. The USA hat is officially sold out. There's no more. That went in no time. The one to the left of Valuetainment, there's 37 of those to the left of that right there. There's 14 of the trucker one, whatever you want to call that, right there. There's a few shirts left. There's a few sweaters left as well. And then if you go onto homepage, there's a blowout sale of 50% that we're running for 4th of July. But here's what you got to keep in mind. If you stay at the top, Rob, the slides will switch. Here's what we're doing. This blowout sale of 50%, it's get it now before things are going to be fully sold out on 4th of July because it's still there. So my suggestion, go to vtmerch.com. Place your order, have the gear ready for 4th of July, then tag us. Hashtag VTMerch. I want to start showing our folks around the world, Valuetainers, wearing VT gear with VT hats. Future looks bright, and I want everybody to start finding each other. This contest we ran with the Manek people that were in town Friday, and we had dinner at Casa D'Angelo, and then we had cigars till midnight. It was so awesome talking to other Valuetainers who also love America. So, blowout sale, VT merch. Here's the QR code. Go to it. 50% off. This is a 4th of July sale. Again, all this stuff is going to sell out one by one by one. I'm just telling you in advance because you're going to see this on 4th of July. That's the QR code. Or go to vtmerch.com. Get the gear. Sport the gear. Celebrate 4th of July. Celebrate the greatest country in the world. And have the pride when you go around to other people because that's what Valuetainers do. We're going to put the link below as well. But there's also the QR code.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.